Namaskar. Aesthetics is one of the most important branches of knowledge systems. In Western philosophy, aesthetics was generally included under philosophy. In Western tradition, aesthetics was included in the discipline of philosophy. It subsequently evolved into an independent field of inquiry. India has significantly contributed to the discipline of aesthetics, and today aesthetics as a shastra, as a discipline under knowledge systems, has become very significant. And in the context of modern life, critical reflections and scholarly discourses on aesthetics have become increasingly meaningful, and they are essential also. Amongst the branches of Bharatiya Jnana Parampara or Bharatiya Jnana Mimamsa, one of the shastras that world needs most today is Saundarya Shastra. Bharatiya Saundarya Shastra is needed. Indian aesthetics, we can say. If aesthetics can be used as a word for Saundarya Shastra, as it is being used now, there are compelling reasons why the world requires Saundarya Shastra in the present scenario. Ours is an age that simultaneously witnesses the devastation of civilization and the possibility of its renewal. Humanity has become alienated from poetry, literature, culture, and the fundamental values of life. And that means that we are moving away from the real beauty of life, the beauty of creation. It is the aesthetics which can give us a sense of beauty or inculcate beauty in our life. Therefore, aesthetics is needed. The traditions of aesthetics have evolved in the knowledge systems of all the countries, all the civilized countries, or the countries who have traditions of ancient civilizations. And all these traditions are characterized by the civilizational roots of that particular country. They are also marked with the worldview of that particular country where they have evolved. The idea of symmetry and linear view of time defines the categories of or discourses under aesthetics in Western countries. There the aesthetic discourses are predominantly based upon one-dimensional and unilateral approaches. Such frameworks do not undertake a holistic inquiry into the beauty of life, the beauty of word and poetry and arts. Today, it has become imperative to transcend this single narrative or transcend these single narratives, this one-sided view of life, because the world faces grave dangers arising from singular narratives or single narratives and unilateral perspectives. In India, by contrast, Saundarya Shastra has always been conceived and it has embraced a kind of wholeness and totality, or the holistic perspective, we can say. The world also needs Bharatiya Saundarya Shastra for another reason. Humanity stands today on the brink of a profound crisis cultural degeneration, technological developments, consumerism, and commercializations in all the walks of life have deprived us of the beauty of life. From our lives, the raga, that is the aesthetic and emotional attunement, has been exiled. Ananda, Satya and Shiva, they perhaps have gone. Whatever was magnificent, graceful, delightful and sublime has been trampled under the relentless advance of technology. But coming to the concept of Bharatiya Saundarya Shastra and how it differs from the Western aesthetics, there are fundamental differences, and that is why there are misunderstandings amongst the European Indologists who have been alleging that India doesn't have any aesthetics. It was perhaps Max Muller who aired a view that Indians don't have aesthetic sensibility. They cannot appreciate beauty. And similar views were aired by other scholars also. They often asserted that there is no independent discipline known as aesthetics, which is now called Saundarya Shastra in modern Indian languages. It is not there in the Indian intellectual tradition. It was not there in the traditional knowledge systems of India, they say. Whereas the West has witnessed an extensive development of aesthetic thoughts, which is true to an extent. Some Indologists or so-called Orientalists have even attributed the supposed absence of, or the so-called absence of, a distinct science of aesthetics in India to the country's alleged intellectual stagnation or lack of aesthetic sensibility. On the other hand, modern Indian scholars, critics, or acharyas of our times who have engaged significantly with aesthetic theories of East and West. I can name some of them: Govind Chand Pandey, Hajari Prasad Dwivedi, a great acharya, Surendra Barlinge, a philosopher of our times, Nanda Dulare Vajpayee, another acharya of Hindi. These acharyas and philosophers have regarded the claim that India lacked a tradition of aesthetic reflection as entirely unfounded. In his work, Naya Sahitya Naye Prashna, that is new literature and new questions with regards to Hindi literature, Nanda Dulare Vajpayee strongly challenged the observations of Bernard Bosanquet, the author of History of Aesthetics, and A. Nicole, the author of World Drama, both of whom have questioned the existence of an indigenous tradition of aesthetics in India. And they say that aesthetics was not there in ancient Indian tradition, and that there are no entries regard to Indian aesthetics in world encyclopedias about knowledge systems prepared by the Western scholars. It is true that Indian tradition did not develop a separate discipline exclusively devoted to aesthetics. No Shastras called Saundarya Shastra, Bharatiya Saundarya Shastra, Bharatiyam Saundarya Shastram were written before 18th century in Sanskrit. Because our case is somewhat different and unique in comparison to West, and we fundamentally differ in our life view and world view. And we didn't need a separate Saundarya Shastra because Saundarya or beauty is inherently integrated, and it is not viewed something isolated. Therefore, an isolated discipline called Saundarya Shastra was not developed. But in Ayurveda, I will also deliver a lecture about aesthetics in Ayurveda, aesthetic appreciation of life in Ayurveda, in Vedanta, in Shaiva philosophy particularly, in all philosophies, in all the Shastras. The beauty of life is considered as a question to be examined and considered. Because that which is inherently integrated in life cannot be easily isolated and viewed independently. So that which has samvaya sambandh, that which has a relation of inherence, it is not separated from the attribute to which it belongs. So there is beauty in life, there is beauty in the creation, there is beauty everywhere, and beauty is viewed everywhere. So there is no need to have a separate discipline to consider what is beauty, because beauty is realized. Therefore, there is no independent Shastra like aesthetics in Sanskrit tradition or in Sanskrit based knowledge systems. In the worldview, in which beauty permeates every particle of the universe, and in which beauty or the supreme reality, Param Tattva, is understood as inseparably present throughout creation, and Param Tattva is Sundar, it is only natural that beauty should not be treated as a distinct subject of inquiry. When we talk of Shiva, beauty is considered along with considering Shiva. The need for a separate science of aesthetics is felt more acutely in societies where beauty is not there. If beauty is not there, you need to consider beauty and you develop a science called aesthetics, where beauty is conceived as something detached from life and from the worldview. Then a separate science may be cultivated. When beauty percolates all the discourses and discussions. It was so in the Western tradition also. It was a part of, aesthetics was a part of philosophy. Psychology was also a discipline integrated in philosophy. So philosophy had a holistic view. So in all the systems of philosophy, darshana in India also, Saundarya is considered. Saundaryanubhuti or the aesthetic experience is considered. It should also be borne in mind that in the Western tradition, creation is often understood to have begun with the consciousness of sin. Particularly in the Christian tradition, the idea of sin and the creation, the world came because the awareness of sin, Papa Bodh was there. According to this view, the human being is inherently tainted by original sin, and the fall of the first human beings from paradise is attributed to their awareness of and participation in sin. The story of great flood appears both in Bible and in Vedic literature and in Puranas, because this legend is common to many countries who have ancient cultural traditions. I am not saying that it came from outside to us or we gave it to other countries, but the legend of flood, Akhyana of Jal Pralay, is found in Greek mythology, in Egypt, in India, and maybe in other countries also. In the biblical account, the flood is sent as an expression of divine wrath. In the book of Genesis, chapter 6 to 9, The flood is presented as God's response to the widespread wickedness and corruption of humankind. I'm reading the sentences from Genesis. The Lord, capital L, saw how great the wickedness of human race had become on earth. And then it says, I am going to put an end to all people. The Lord, Parameshwara, wants to end the world. For the earth is filled with violence and because of them. For the earth is filled with violence because of them. Thus the flood is indeed sent as an expression of divine judgment or divine wrath against human sin and violence. However, of course, in Bible, the narrative emphasizes over justice. That is, God punishes corrupt and violent. And it also includes the idea of mercy, because Noah, who is supposed to be Manu in our legends or Akhyanas, Noah and his family were spared out of mercy of the Lord. And the idea of renewal. The flood cleanses the earth and allows a new beginning. After Pralaya, there is a new beginning. This idea, of course, is also there in the Genesis. And covenant. After flood, God establishes a covenant with Noah, symbolized by the rainbow. And the rainbow promises never again to destroy the earth by a flood. So this is the biblical account of flood, where flood is sent as a punishment and as a judgment, as nyaya upon human wickedness, expressing God's wrath against the sin, and also ultimately emphasizing over the idea of mercy, renewal, etc. But in our tradition, in the Vedic and Puranic narratives, God assumes the form of fish, that is Matsyavatara, in order to rescue Manu and preserve creation. In contrast to the Western perspective, the Indian vision regards the universe as an eternal poem. So then the basic differences are there. Because the creation or the universe as it exists is a beauty created by the God. Devasya pashya kavyam na mamarana jiryati. This world is a poem written by God, which neither dies nor decays, says the Vedic seer of Atharvaveda. So it is this Vedic vision of universe, this Vishwabodha, that underlies the repeated assertion in Bhagavata and other Puranas that gods themselves long to descend on earth. They are viewing the earth from above with a kind of envy, how happy the human beings in Bharat Bhumi are there, because they of course suffer, but they can attain moksha. Gayanti devaha kila gita kani dhanyasute bharat bhumi bhage swargap vargas pada hetu hute. Here on the earth you can attain both swarga and apvarga. We are living in heaven, but we cannot attain apvarga. So the gods vie with the life of human beings on earth because it is beautiful and it gives aesthetic delights, because human life has aesthetic delight. Gods cannot create beauty. Human beings can create beauty. That is the difference. Indian aesthetics therefore did not arise from the narrative of humanity's fall from heaven into a sinful world. Rather, it emerged from the contemplation of heaven, of the heaven that is already present upon the earth. It is an aesthetics born of the vision of the world's inherent beauty, not of its alienation from the divine. Beauty resides in consciousness. We dwell in beauty, and beauty dwells within us. For this reason, there was no need in India to formulate a separate discipline devoted exclusively to beauty. Just as we do not ordinarily objectify our own self for independent contemplation, beauty is our own self, and it was never regarded as something external to human existence. It is within us and without us. Western scholars therefore mistakenly allege that India had never developed a discipline of aesthetics, and we perhaps influenced by them, we were influenced by this colonial outlook, attributing lack of aesthetics, lack of science, lack of rational view. We perhaps agreed with it during the colonial period or due to our colonial mindset. Therefore, we coined a term like Saundarya Shastra in modern Indian languages. Now in Sanskrit also, the term Saundarya Shastra has been accepted. But the term has been wrongly coined actually. We do not say Saundarya Shastra in our tradition because there are several other better words suited to express the idea of aesthetics, the idea of beauty, and aesthetic theories in our tradition. Just as we coined a mantra, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, perhaps under the influence of Keats' lines. There is an ode by Keats, an ode to Grecian earth. It is a Grecian earth, and it says, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth. And all you need to know. Keats himself was perhaps influenced by Indian view, just as Goethe was so much overpowered by Kalidasa Shakuntala. So these are the romantic poets of Europe who become gradually aware of Indian poetry or Indian view of life, particularly Shelley and Keats. So therefore, these are very significant lines in Keats. If he has borrowed the idea of beauty and truth being treated at par, why translate Keats into Sanskrit and say Satyam Shivam Sundaram, etc.? We already have this idea of affinity or non-difference between beauty and truth and auspicious. And we not only coined a kind of mantra, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, we started saying that this mantra occurs in Upanishads. So far as I know, in none of the Upanishads a line like Satyam Shivam Sundaram occurs. It might be occurring in a movie song. Because why Satyam Shivam and Sundaram are not uttered as separate words in this tradition? because that which is Satya is Shiva, and that which is Shiva is itself Sundara. So you need not say separately as Satya and Shiva. You don't say Satya and Shiva because they are unified and they are one. You can separate them just like you do dissection. So that is analytical method. So we did that also, but basically they are integrated together with Samvaya Sambandha, the relationship of inherence. So the very utterance of Shiva simultaneously evokes Satya and Sundara. Abhinav Gupta, the great philosopher, observes that when Shiva resides in the heart, everything becomes Shivmaya. Consequently, everything also becomes beautiful. Therefore, Anandakumar Swami rightly regarded the term aesthetics, and together with all the conceptual assumptions associated with it, as inadequate for understanding the Indian conception of Saundarya Shastra. Vidyanivas Mishra is another Acharya who joins line with Anandakumar Swami, and he extends this insight further by proposing the expression Raga Bodha in place of Saundarya Shastra, because Rag is beauty and Rag is a kind of tune in life, rhythm and beauty also. Rag is not simply the raga of music, raga. It is also anuraga. It is love, an expression of beauty as well. But it is there within us. Raga bodh belongs to us, to our psyche. It is deeply percolates our psyche. Today we have forgotten this experience, this raga bodha, or experiencing beauty in each and every particle of the universe. So if we can revert back to that raga bodha, that will be rediscovering Indian aesthetics in our life. Across the diverse traditions of Bharatiya Jnana Mimamsa, reflection on beauty has examined every dimension of Saundarya Shastra. The social, environmental, personal, internal and external aspects, and they are considered from philosophical, psychological and metaphysical perspectives. Therefore, the unparalleled contribution of Indian Saundarya Shastra to global knowledge traditions deserves full recognition. And it is time that we tell the world that we have an aesthetics. So we don't have a single word Saundarya or Saundaryanubhuti. We have a series of several terms which have diverse shades of meanings, and they do not have a single narrative. In Vedic literature, charu, peshal, sutasht, these words occur. Then in later tradition, priya, mangal, and in Vedic and later traditions, shilpa, kala, roop, charuta, vichitrita, vakrita, vakrokti, vichitti, lalitya, abhijatya, lavanya, saukumarya, mardav, rekha, saushthav, ramaniyata, shobha, saubhagya, bandh, aswad, charvana, bhushan, vartana, रूप, प्रतिरूप, चित्रता, श्री, शोभा, I have said it, kamniyata, kanti. So you can say that I am hurling several terms which may mean nothing, but each term is very significant because it reveals several aspects of beauty and sense of beauty and aesthetic experience. Finally, Purnata, and alankara. These are the terms, umbrella terms, which imbibe all these concepts. So, with this, I come to the end of this talk. Thank you very much.